അല്ല, അവർ ലൈറ്റ് ഇടുന്നുണ്ടല്ലോ, അപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ അതിൽ വെച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. സെറ്റ്. റെക്കോർഡിങ് പറയണേ. റെക്കോർഡിങ് പറയണേ.
Wave at you from a distance earlier. I'm good, how are you? Yeah, I'm running around, but it's all exciting, isn't it? Yeah, I'm really excited for this. This is amazing. I've not been to an airport so, alright, I'll see you shortly. Huh?
5. അതൊക്കെ ഞാൻ സെറ്റ് ചെയ്ത. ഐശ്വര്യമില്ല ആള് ഉണ്ടാവും. ഇല്ല. ജോലിക്ക് തുറന്നു.
Starting in about 2 minutes. Maybe not 2 minutes.
ഞാൻ പുറത്ത് കേട്ടെ പെട്ടെന്ന് ഒരു ചായ ഇട്ട് കേട്ടെ.
I think crypto radio is like a 24-hour radio channel. Facebook channel, it's a YouTube channel. A really nice bunch of people. We should get collective, but they definitely want to do it. What was it? It's dangerous. Yeah. Can you take some photos?
Of you?
Yeah. The light was giving too much of my head. This step is
I know, exactly.
like I know it's a step, but like why is it very
This was clearly AI. This was AI manipulation. Because all of the events, what I realized, again, first crypto event, this location was what else? But this, all of it, we have 1,000 plus registrations. So either we're all just now turning really popular, or someone actually sent me the AI agent that calls you, signs you up to everything. Same with these games. So now you, but again, I'm quite happy here. We have critical mass for it to look good.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're actually gonna have everyone in the seat.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
No. This wasn't as steep before.
No, I'm looking forward to
Everybody's like, there is a, do you used to have seat? Yeah. Yeah, I'm home. That's why
the sun came up this morning.
Met someone who lent it to them. I don't know what it turned out to be.
Testing. Welcome.
Ready. Recording button.
Testing. Yes, we'll be out of here by then. Hello everybody, we're starting soon, so if you make your way into the main theatre.
മറ്റേ പവർ ഇരിക്കുന്ന എൻ്റെ സൈഡിൽ
ഒരു ലൈനെ കൊടുത്തിട്ടുള്ളൂ.
അങ്ങനെ
വണ്ണ് മാത്രം.
അങ്ങനെ തന്നെ കൊടുക്കാറ്. അങ്ങനെ കോൾ ചെയ്ത ലക്ഷ്യം
കിട്ടിയാ ഞാൻ കോൾ ചെയ്യട്ടെ.
പറഞ്ഞോളൂ. ഇതിപ്പോൾ വരുമ്പോൾ
Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming. Hope everyone's having a great Token 2049. And welcome to Vanar Vision. Vanar Vision, we think, is the most exciting event of Token 2049. It's about much more than just showcasing our exciting technology. For us, it's kind of about showing you where we believe the world of Web3 is heading. And it's a really exciting time if you think about what's happening, how everything is changing and evolving, the emergence of AI. We see so many different things and so many exciting technologies. And all of us here who are at Token 2049, we're at the, not even the leading edge, we're at the bleeding edge of technology, where all this stuff is happening. And we're so excited to be part of all these different innovations. And we are standing at something that's really interesting. We're standing at the convergence of AI, of financial autonomy, and on-chain intelligence. So it's a really, really exciting time. And a lot of us are trying to navigate what this is going to look like. And to that end, we're joined today by some of Vanar's amazing partners, some of who we're actually working with to build new innovations. And we're so excited that they could be here to join us today. We're also joined by other exciting leaders in Web3, and some couldn't make it because the traffic is terrible outside, but we'll make it work. We've got 3 key events. Our first panel is talking about, will AI finally meet blockchain? Then our CEO, Jawad Ashraf, will take the stage with a tech demo and an explainer about Neutron, our new technology which redefines on-chain data, and then maybe he'll reveal just one more exciting secret that Vanar has got. And then the third panel will be joined by some great partners who are going to talk about how PayFi, or even the way in which industry recognizes this term PayFi, is reshaping finance. And then after that, we'll have a bit of time for networking. We have our activity room, our interactive room back there, where we've got a couple of pioneering projects, both in AI, Inflective, which is doing amazing stuff with data, and an exciting RWA project, Soretta, who have got their demos there, and you can learn much more about our ecosystem as well. You may or may know, Vanar has been very active with our countrywide growth strategy for the last 12 months. We've been working in Pakistan. We're seeing the fruits of that now with World Liberty Finance and CZ and all this other exciting stuff happening. So much to talk about, and I don't want to take up any more of your time. Thank you for coming, and welcome to the event, and I'll turn it over to our first panel.
Well, thank you so much, Ash, for that great introduction. I'd like to invite the amazing speakers I've got with me today on stage, please. Amazing. So we can kickstart with a round of very, very quick introductions. My name is Alnura. I'm a PR director at Input Global. We are a PR marketing agency that helps Web3 businesses be heard. Please, Matthias.
Thank you very much. Turn this on. Okay, it works. Hello, everyone. I'm Matthias Mandio. I'm the CTO of Inflective. We're a data infrastructure for AI. So happy to be here tonight.
Amazing.
Hey, everybody. Jawad Ashraf, CEO of Vanar. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Hi, I'm Shubho. I lead the engineering for Web3 and AI based out of Singapore.
Amazing. Well, as we promised, amazing lineup of speakers that we have here. And my first question is actually to Google Cloud, and that is, we are currently facing, a challenge of so much AI data getting generated. And the question is, what is the key challenge when it comes to data storage, and how can we really effectively manage it?
That's a really good question, because we cannot start on a good pedestal with AI without a sound backing of data. And as we get more into AI, the things that on a day-to-day basis we encounter is the data complete? Is the data accurate? Is the data trustworthy? What governance did I put behind that data? And finally, when I start handling larger and larger data sets, which are not just structured, but video content, pictures, a lot of IoT-based data, how do I do labeling? How do I differentiate what's a good data versus a bad data? So these are certain fundamental questions that we have to solve for before we put that into a model. And I'll give you a few real-life examples. We put, from 1960 onwards, all service manuals of a particular car manufacturer and fed that into an AI model and asked a question on what's an issue with my engine. It gave me 3 responses. 2 of those responses were models that were outdated in 1970s. So there has to be a data governance, there has to be a data completeness, and the data has to make sense for what questions we are asking for.
Absolutely. And I mean, you've put out really great challenges there. Jawad, my question to you is, how do you think decentralized solutions will play a role in solving them?
Well, I think with decentralized solutions, it's more about what sort of data will find itself onto decentralized solutions. Because we're talking about, let's say, IoT data, data that needs regulation, and that's very important. But then, when it comes to decentralized data, what about the other data? You know, the data that comes from people, the data that actually comes from companies who want their information stored under a copyright where they believe the data is going to be secure. And so when you look at all of the data in the world, I mean, you have a whole batch over here which AI has completely sucked up already. But there's a massive batch that hasn't been. And that's locked into silos everywhere. And that's really something that I found very interesting about this Inflective project. And that's the key mission of this, to unlock that locked data. And so when you talk about that particular challenge, it's a case of, yes, it's unstructured, but when it comes from people, that's the richest knowledge, and that's actually the most unstructured data you could get. It's like a stream of consciousness sometimes, but it's of incredible value. And so I think the challenges are going to be, how can we, in a smart fashion, handle and understanding the meaning of data? Because that's actually, you know, even when you talk about AI and you're saying that, you know, the AI needs to work with good data, we need another AI that can comprehend the value of that data and where it slots in together. So I think once you have something like this, then it empowers everything else.
Love that. And I mean, even just to sum up your 2 points, you know, at the beginning of our panel, it's always data trust, transparency, data provenance. The key things that we keep on hearing about that are, you know, key challenges to solve for. Matthias, my question for you is, how do you think blockchain can solve for these in AI systems effectively?
I mean, first of all, AI is only as good as its data, right? Blockchain is a really amazing technology we all know in this room. And it's been designed for a certain purpose, right? It's basically part of a stack. So it brings transparency, that's one thing, which is great, but mostly ownership and incentivization. The issue at the moment with centralized solutions like, for example, like Facebook, right, Meta, they all made a lot of money, still are, sitting on people's data, right? How is that data being used? And there's so many people in the room here. All of you you're sitting on tons of really valuable data, which is basically as a liquid asset, you should be able to get like benefits for contributing with that data. Basically through tokenization of data sets, for example. Let's say you have a skill set or knowledge, or you're working for a university on a piece of research that's really valuable. How can you basically bring that to a certain use case and actually benefit from that? So that's the thing about Inflective, we're solving that. And we don't only do that, but also make sure it's of the highest quality for AI. There's no point of exposing gigabytes or terabytes of whatever data irrelevant to the world. Make sure it's structured and high quality.
Amazing. Subha, I want to come back to you, and that is, you know, we've been hearing a lot about AI meets blockchain, right? We've been hearing a lot about how amazing that relationship can be, how many incredible use cases that can come to life thanks to that. What do you think is a key challenge, or maybe there is a couple, in integrating blockchain technology into large-scale AI systems?
That's a wonderful question, because as rightly Matthias was pointing out, blockchain as a technology was done with a purpose of collaboration, with a purpose of trust, seeking transparency. AI, on the other hand, was done with in its object of reasoning. To have reasoning, I need a solid grounding of data. And now, things start getting really complex. Think about situations in healthcare where I not want to expose a patient record to AI, but I would require the AI to learn from all the diseases that every patient has undergone, right? So these are classic cases where blockchain meets AI. And similarly, from a financial institution perspective, I want a fraud system, but I do not want to give away my customer records. How can I do distributed AI learning? That's where AI models can learn of everywhere in an element of trust without having to share data with each other. So these are really cool, innovative use cases in healthcare, in any of those regulated industries that places a very high premium on data security and data governance.
Thank you for that. And the other point that I just wanted to raise, when it comes to both AI and blockchain, they tend to have not a very good reputation when it comes to sustainability or environmental impact. But just wondering, Matthias, maybe you can shed a light on the combination of AI and blockchain. How could that create solutions that are actually environmentally friendly?
I mean, it's really about the amount of energy that's used, right? So first of all, why would you expose tons of data, basically bombard AI agents or other applications with that data? There's no point. So if you basically can make it hyper-relevant and very small, and just making sure that everything in that data set is just like perfect for that use case, it's going to be a lot more sustainable, actually. So I think this is where the solution is sitting. Companies need to stop having all this. I mean, they can have the raw data, but do something with it. Make sure it's structured. I think that's one thing.
So it's more about being targeted and mindful with how you utilize the data and hence the energy. But Jawad, just wanted
Yeah, it's stockpiled. I mean, like companies, the big thing before we had Web3, Web2 was all about building technologies. Then it went into storing massive sets of data. And every major brand collects tons of information that they then do nothing with. And now they're hosting it, they're storing it, they're collecting it, and it's literally like they have got warehouses of information of which they just scratch their heads and goes, well, at least we got it. It's like hoarding. And that problem is that all of that takes energy, and it's costly. And so what Matthias says about being hyper-targeted is very important. Bring in the relevance of the right data, and only store that and use that, and you're in good shape.
Love those insights there. And I guess a more controversial question. I think when the ChatGPT was launched, AI has become sort of this big thing that everyone wanting to get their hands on, from investors to obviously projects that had nothing to do with AI before. Now all of a sudden, absolutely embrace AI as technology. Matthias, I mean, you're building a platform that very much utilizes AI. What do you say to sort of critics that just say that AI amidst blockchain is just a way to, garner investor interest, but has little value to the end user?
I mean, people are always skeptical, right? Every single technology in the history of humankind, at the beginning, people were like, is that something that we want? Then all of a sudden, like enough people start using it, and actually you get like really good use cases, like they call it like adoption rate. Same thing with crypto, right? I mean, now we're getting to the point that's get pretty common, right? If we get up to like 1 billion users, it's going to be like, oh yeah, everybody's using it, right? Same thing with AI. Yes, data needs to be secured. Yes, the use cases need to be secured as well. Every technology can also be used for the wrong purposes or like less ethical purposes, right? So more and more, that AI agents and applications are entering our lives and actually providing benefits, and if we can actually also benefit from it, from our own data, people are going to be more convinced of it, I think. So, rest assured.
I guess time will tell. But you mentioned something interesting, which is, onboarding the next billion users. When I hear a lot about, let's say, the relationship between AI and blockchain, to me, a lot of the benefit ends up being with the end user, but it's very much the sort of, the B2B partners, the institutional, entities that have to be persuaded, right, that this is also in their best interest. So I just want to come back to you. When you're trying to juggle between that balance of benefiting the end user versus benefiting the, the B2B partners, how do you have that conversation?
Look, it's always about the end user, right? Because the end user drives demand. So if you can make the end user happy, the B2B partners will be happy. So at the end of the day, this is often a conversation we have. It's even when we talk to funds, we talk to companies and partners, they have an idea of how they can please people around them. But if you get it, and we hope we do, we're trying to understand how best to provide utility. You have a happy customer, you provide them utility, then everyone else up the chain benefits because people actually embrace that. Brands have more customers. And when you're talking about the blockchain and AI, and why is it different? It's because right now, when it comes to critical data, it's held by institutions because the trust isn't there. People can't trust their data anywhere than an institution, medical data, government data, private information. All the serious stuff is gatekept by an organization which is regulated. Now, the whole promise of blockchain was trustless trust. And it can provide that. So if you can take that data, unlock it, and then have something that can utilize and allow developers to build something useful, people just move to those apps, and it happens like this. Just like people gravitated to AI within 2 years, you provide them killer applications. I want to, it's almost like you had an insight into what I'm going to be announcing next, because there's certain things that we can enable now with our blockchain, which will be things like your medical data is completely private. And if you want to access the data, the part of the data you want, it'll pull it out in a trusted way with ZK proofs and provide it to whoever needs to consume it. So now your data doesn't have to sit with an institution. It just needs trust, and the blockchain can deliver that, but the blockchain hasn't delivered that to today. Right now it's a ledger. A blockchain with data and AI, that's the future.
So we're waiting for the killer application to deliver on the message.
And the killer blockchain that will empower that. So
well, more on that later, but yeah, just want to get more insights on this question from you.
So I completely agree with you. It's unless you show what the future holds like, there's no one who's going to believe you, and everyone will be a critic. So what AI did for a revolution was, the reason AI became a successful hit because it first concentrated on the end consumer. My son actually taught me AI. He went to that and said, here is how you do this, and here is how you can compose a poem. So we started there at the consumer. And then eventually everyone between the consumer and the business, everyone started finding a way to make it happen. So once you focus on the consumer, everyone in that ecosystem starts gravitating towards making it work.
Amazing. So it's still consumer first, and then the rest will have to follow whether they want to or not. I guess I just want to throw a question to all of the panelists here. I mean, we've heard interesting insights on just AI and blockchain, how the two can complement one another, how the two are absolutely necessary for one another. My question is, what do you think 5 years from now? What is going to be the key use case that potentially will have the sort of the mass adoption that we're talking about today, and it does leverage both AI and blockchain? Matthias, we can start from you.
That's a good question.
Nice, easy question.
So in 5 years from now, how I'd like to see the world, and I really strongly believe we're going there, is the fact that at this point, everything online seems to be personalized and relevant, but I don't think it is. It's very fragmented. Some of your data is sitting there, some of your data is sitting there. In 5 years from now, I'd like to go online and use an AI that knows me, that knows what's relevant, knows what kind of clothing I wear, knows like what kind of trips I like to take. Basically everything around me, so I can lock it into any online environment and basically have a hyper-relevant experience. And that's the thing with blockchain, it gives that basically the ownership aspect. Without that, forget about it. You can bridge it across the whole internet, everything online. That really excites me.
All right, looking forward to that becoming a reality. But
We're
Jawad,
building it, so that's inflective.
everyone here is a witness, right? So if that doesn't happen in 5 years, Matthias is the one to blame. But Jawad, what is the use case that you are confident will be the use case in 5 years?
Yeah, I think a malevolent AI will download as a robot and kill all of us, basically, by then. So that's what's going to happen in 5 years' time. No. Basically, I think the way that technology really works is like if you look at mobile's everywhere. We use it for everything. In fact, we're holding the mobile phone way too much in our hands. I think the use case will be everything. Everything, every aspect of our day-to-day life, from our banking to medicine to education especially, is heavily going to be driven via AI. And blockchain and that infrastructure will be the enabling part of that, which is going to be trust. That information is secure and decentralized. And then you're going to have the other part, which is going to be industry and government, which are going to be using blockchain, but in a more corporate way, in a more structured fashion, so they can actually have provenance and history of their data as well. But blockchain will need to get a lot better. Right now, it's, like we talk about blockchain and AI. Blockchain is the old technology. AI is the new technology. So blockchains need to get smarter. They need to evolve, and they need to have ML components all the way through them. So like little virtual machines and ML and SLMs need to be part of the blockchain. And right now, like there was like an announcement just 2 weeks ago, I think it was Cardano, said we've reached the peak of where we are with our blockchain. But blockchain's at the beginning. So I think 5 years from now, it'll be everywhere. But the players who are going to be at that point probably are going to we'll only see 10% of them now. Because being first is never going to put you into first place. I remember when Google first launched, Web Spider and everything else was out, and they were just saying, hey, we're just another search engine. But they had an agenda to dominate the world, but they didn't talk about that. So those companies those companies are around. So 5 years from now, I think there's going to be some new stars. The old companies are trying to catch up, but agility is key in this situation. And China's, there's so much coming out there. We're going to see some big players. They're going to take over the cars, but we're going to see some incredibly new tech from there as well.
Amazing. So blockchains need to get better. Quite a self-challenge coming from a CEO of a layer one, but more on that later. So what are your thoughts? The use case in 5 years?
So you're the first person who asked me about AI in 5 years. Usually people ask me for 12 months because you know how the speed of innovation is far higher, but I'll try to attempt to answer it. I would equate AI to freedom. And the reason I would say AI equals freedom is because everyone can code. Whether you have a professional computer science degree, whether you have experience as a coder, does not really matter. The vibe coding platforms of the world will allow you to code no matter whether you have a coding background or not. You can create art, you can create music, you can create a movie, and you may not have that background. So AI will enable a user be more equal to freedom, where they can pursue their own tastes, they can pursue their own hobbies, they can pursue their own professional careers. Where blockchain meets AI is today, all the models that we have in the world are trained on all of the data that is publicly available. And that is done, that is where we are today. From now on, differentiation is when that secure piece of data that is sitting within organizations is exposed to AI, and the model starts learning from it. And that is where blockchain comes into play, because securely I can then share the data. The model can then do a distributed learning, and that's how the model will get smarter. And that is where healthcare, for example, or even autonomous vehicles, for example, or even financial transactions, for example, that's where people can securely share data, and that's where it can make more sense of it. So that is where blockchain becomes the underlying glue that makes a model become smarter, and a smarter model will make the user become more independent.
Love that. So more independent users. And I guess, I mean, I'm far from the technical genius that are all my panelists here today, but if I can share my 2 cents of just from the user perspective, I think the ability to own your own data and actually do with it what you like, whether that's commercialize it or just keep it to yourself, would be a massive one. And I really hope that in 5 years from now, that would be possible. Hopefully, thanks to AI and blockchain. We do have time for just one question from the audience, if there is a brave soul here that wants to ask a question. All right, if everyone is feeling a little bit shy, these incredible panelists will be with us at the networking right after our program ends, so feel free to come by and say hi. Other than that, thank you so much. Let's do a round of applause for the incredible panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alnura. Thank you to all the panelists. So the next thing we've got an exciting presentation, which is something that Vanar's been working on for at least the last 12 months. When we saw what's happening in this space, we saw the proliferation of the same layer 1, similar infrastructure, hundreds of layer 2s emerging, and we really thought about how blockchains can be used in the future and the true application of the promise of blockchain. So with that, I'm going to hand over to our CEO, Jawad, who's going to explain a lot more about our new technology, Neutron.
Hi, everyone. Okay, all right. So today, really, this was an important day for us. We've been working on this for a long time, and it's something we're very, very proud of. So welcome to our brand new technology platform, Vanar Neutron. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about is like blockchain. Ash, it needs to be present up there. So blockchain itself, what is it about blockchain? It's like it's been out for a while, but the key things about blockchain is that it hasn't really delivered. You know, users don't really have access to the information. There's a lot of friction, right, to get to the data. They can't access it very easily. And they don't actually have their own information. Like if you get an NFT, you don't really own anything. You own a blockchain record. Like you saw the thing earlier this week in the press where a whole lot of NFTs just disappeared. Because the data transaction is on the blockchain, but the actual image itself, the media, isn't on the blockchain. It's sitting somewhere else. Devs, you know, when you look at all the blockchains around the world, the biggest struggle is getting developers to build something. You know, it took a while to get e-commerce applications running and websites that were useful, and there was a big shakedown, and in the end we got the Amazon and the Spotifys and everything else. But we've had the same thing happening with mobile, but with crypto there's very little. You know, there's DeFi projects, there's projects that crypto enthusiasts make their own money, but how many crypto projects are mainstream? That's because blockchain hasn't given the ability to developers to build something yet that is of real value, which can appeal to the mainstream. Because let's face it, people will only ever adopt a technology if it provides them something. Everything has got to be driven by utility. And, you know, blockchain has given us a promise of that, but it hasn't delivered on that yet. And, you know, we've been in this area for a long time. In fact, even before we made Vanar Chain, we worked in the music industry, and we worked with the film industry. We worked with Legendary, Paramount. We were on Stephen Colbert. And every single one of these brands was struggling to find a blockchain which makes sense. And so then we created Vanar. And it did simple things in that they wanted. They wanted fixed prices. They wanted it to be an EVM chain so they could have developers. They wanted green. So we provided them all of those things. And enterprises still have the problem that even though they've got this blockchain with these features, they can't plug that into like databases. They can't plug it into their systems. So it's made it very difficult, you know, and the data's sitting over there, the systems are over here, and Web3 is sort of making it quite tricky. And we're getting better, but there's still a long way we need to go. And what we do find is with a lot of companies, like, you know, we're just one of another EV, it's just another EVM blockchain. And, you know, there are loads. And there are a gazillion layer 2 projects. And you know what? They're all doing the same thing over and over again. So yes, that's where we are today, and there's a lot of enthusiasm at Token 2049, and there are some incredible projects here. But as far as we're concerned, and our Vanar philosophy was, we have to innovate. We've got to provide what the promise of blockchain was. You know, Web3 promised trust. Blockchain can provide trust. But trust what? Right now, all we have is a placeholder. And that's really where this comes in, this new technology, what we're going to unveil to the world today. Now, what is it? What am I talking about? You know, all this doom and gloom, super negative. But really, you know, like, what fixes these problems? So today we announced Neutron. Neutron is an absolute game changer for crypto and Web3 and for Web2. You know, I cannot emphasize that enough. This is a big change. It is a first transition of Vanar to actually a blockchain built around AI. You know, so we're not just talking about tacking bits on or adding features. We've fundamentally re-engineered our blockchain to use AI throughout it. And you know, when people talk about AI, you know, we're not talking about just like a big model like ChatGPT, and it's absolutely huge and it's heavy and it needs all of this infrastructure. Small AI, machine learning models, little learning machines can be 64K. 15 megabytes, and they can do an incredible amount of intelligent decision making. And we've integrated that throughout our entire blockchain. So what have we done in this? You know, like, we've added that throughout our entire ecosystem, including our validator nodes, and now they're AI validator nodes. And then we've dealt with the fundamental problem that you have in blockchain, which is about data. Because Neutron is all about data. And you know what? Nowadays, when we talk about data, you talk about, okay, so I have this file, and now this file's on IPFS, or this data sitting in the database, or I've got an MP3, or I've got a PDF. Now, all of those things don't sit on the chain. But that's the sort of stuff that you actually would want to access on a blockchain to actually do something decent with. You know, like if you were going to build a medical application like they mentioned earlier, or you wanted to build a financial application, or you actually just wanted to have an NFT which actually is sitting in the blockchain, that information needs to be dealt with and be placed inside the blockchain itself. And that's what we've done with Neutron. We've built a brand new technology stack which takes the data, makes it hyper small, and it looks at data in two ways. It looks at data in terms of the structure of the file, that's compression, and then it looks at data in terms of what data is. It's how can you compress the knowledge? And that really is what Neutron is all about. So with that, we'll play a little clip and tell you a little bit more about it.
Blockchains were never built for data. They store hashes, they link to files, they rely on IPFS. Vanar Neutron changes that. It doesn't just store data, it compresses it, understands it, and runs logic from it. It starts with a file. Neutron's AI parses it, understanding structure, meaning, and relationships. Then it applies semantic and heuristic compression, shrinking the file contents by up to 500 times, without losing what matters. What you get is a Neutron seed, a tiny cryptographically provable object that lives fully on-chain. You can query it, ask it questions, run logic from inside the file itself. Because in Neutron, data isn't just stored, it's active, compressed, provable, intelligent. This isn't storage, this is cognition, compression, and compute, all on-chain. Neutron. Reimagine data.
Okay, we really love the logo. So basically, what does that mean? Okay, now, right now, today in the world, when we talk about data, let's talk about a PDF. Okay, we talk about, okay, how do we get that information? How do we access that information? Well, actually, do we need to keep the PDF itself, or do we need the knowledge in the PDF? I mean, do you want to keep the filing cabinet, or do you need the information in the filing cabinet? Now, you need both. Right, but you need to have efficiency, and you need that information, that file, or that data to be inside a blockchain record. There's no point having a blockchain record and then storing stuff elsewhere. There are times that that is useful, and that should be an option, and we will offer that. But basically, we've created the ability to take the information, shrink it into something very small called a neutron seed. And there are two types. One is for the compressed data. And what we can do is that we can take a file, let's say that you have a 5 megabyte PDF, and you can shrink it down to something like 60K, 40K, and then you go ahead and you put it into a record. And that key, that seed is inside there, and with a key you can unlock it and bring it back anytime you want. But that PDF now is permanently stored. That MP3 file is permanently stored. That video file can be stitched across multiple blockchain records and stored in a hyper-compressed way on-chain forever. And because it's on a proper network with validator nodes, which is decentralized, you don't have the problem that you had with Nike earlier this week, where all of a sudden the NFTs disappear. Because the information you have, the documents you have, the media you have is hyper-compressed and is put onto the chain. And is completely lossless the way that we do the compressed data. So that's a brand new technology, and we've spent a long time developing this, and that's going to be launched. And I'm going to show you an example of how that works in a bit. The other bit is actually more important in my mind, because compressed data deals with compressing structure. Dynamic data is about compressing knowledge and information. And that is actually what will make the promise of blockchain be realized. Because if you can compress that information and make it live and available for applications, you now empower that 5-year roadmap. You know, you don't empower the robot that will kill everyone, but you do empower Matthias's vision, which is having that information available to you in a whole array of applications for every single part of your life, and for the future innovation of blockchain itself. Because, like, what does blockchain allow? It empowers new things like real-world asset tokenization, which is going to be the most transformative DeFi application of the blockchain. But for that to happen, and for you to tap into countries which traditionally need trust, that's where, if you were able to have that information stored within the blockchain for RWA projects, and then you were able to query that data dynamically in real time without having to pull information out from like a PDF, but yet all the information on like 1,000 documents was available at your fingertips and in a trusted way with a ZK proof, then all of a sudden you change the game. And that's what Neutron will allow you to do. The data which is compressed has a proof. You know the data in the seed is real data. The dynamic data, the meaning of data, can also go onto the chain. And just to give you an idea, a 6 gigabyte PDF file can actually have that information stored in a 20K seed, 20K UDF file in the blockchain record. And an AI can read that semantic meaning and tell you exactly what's in that file. Now that is going to be innovation at a completely different scale. So, next video. I'll just talk a little bit about how it's done. So, the way that we deal with the compression is that when I talk about semantic compression, what I'll do is just give you a little bit of an insight into how it's done. When you talk about data, you talk about zeros and ones. Now, when you use semantic compression, it basically looks at the data points in that document and it links them together. That's what you're seeing there. This is what our AI generates. So it takes all of the information in the file and it links it all together. So one piece of information is linked to another piece of information. And that is then stored and understood by the AI. And then it takes that information and it carves it up into shards. So this is hard to read, but essentially what that is, the bit at the bottom is lots of shards of information, which are all very common. And so what it does, it creates like a hierarchical map of all the information, and it knows what relates to what. So when you ask a question, you get the right answer. And you get the right answer immediately. But you don't have to have every single scrap of data stored within it. So in the next bit here, I mean, this is impossible to look. It just looks like a black shrub. But essentially what that is, it's like every single page of a PDF is linked, is a point. So let's say it's 150 pages. Every point then is linked to another page, and every line is a black line. So eventually you end up getting this model, and the AI stores that inside it. And so if I was to just show you our system running, so this is like what would happen on the server. There's a file which is an agent file from Google. it goes ahead and it runs processing on it. And then after the AI is finished processing, this is how it represents the data. So that data is looked at in multiple ways. It's looked at from every single angle. It's how it's clustered, how it's vectored between the data points, where that information and what that information, where it is and how it repeats. And then when you have all of that, that can then be shrunk down to something very, very tiny and insert into the blockchain record. Or if you want to keep the original document, you can break it into these shards, which are pieces. And those pieces are actually quantum secured. Because again, you know, like we talk about normal encryption, and we talk about something which is AES encryption, but that is all something which is not secure enough. Now, what we're also going to be launching, and we're showing now, is our application where you will be able to use this tech straight away. So right now we're going to alpha, but here what we can do, we can upload a record, any record. In this case, it's the same PDF that was analyzed earlier. And that record is then uploaded directly onto our blockchain. And when it's uploaded into our blockchain, we actually take that file and we make it hyper small, and then it gets shrunk down and put into a record into your wallet. And that record is then available to you on the Vanar chain anytime you want. So in this case, somebody's uploading a PDF, connecting their wallet to it, and then it uploads it into our blockchain, compressing it as it goes. And so when that's done, now that file that was, this one here is like an 8.9 megabyte file, I believe, and it's something like 18K, 20K. And now if you go to the blockchain record and you switch to UDF, that is the seed. You can actually see it. It's there. And that's what the AI uses to recreate the record anytime you want. And this is going to be available. I mean, this is going to be made live at the end of the day, and the alpha team and whitelists are all kicking in so people can start using it. So when that is done, and I've just in the demo as well, when you found the blockchain record, you can click download, and that's a reconstructed record. And that record is constructed from an 18K seed, from something that was 9 megs. The theoretical limit of compression is 9.2 to 1. But now what we've been able to do with this is smash those records, because AI is going to change everything, and that's what we're doing with Vanar. And this is going to be available to everyone in the Vanar ecosystem, any dApp developer that wants to build, but we are going to be taking this technology and pushing it multi-chain. So at the end of the day, we do believe that for Web3 to succeed, and these L1s to really succeed, we need to be working together. And we want to take this technology and bring it across the entire ecosystem. First, this is coming with Vanar, then we're going to bring it out to everyone. The whole point here is that if our data is on-chain, that data will forever be more useful. Now, the last part of this, and this is the additional thing that we haven't talked about, but for us it's a reveal. Vanar is launching the brain that does all this. How does this stuff happen? How do we compress these files? How do we take this semantic information? It's because Vanar has its very own AI. And this AI has got lots of different forms. This Vanar AI is called Kaon. And what this does, it has an AI model, which is the large one, but it also has components which are very, very tiny. And those components are then deployed, have been deployed onto our validator nodes. So when you go ahead and you run certain processes, like stripping the data out, that's a 64K tiny machine learning model which is doing this. And then you've got Kaon, and what Kaon is going to allow you to do is then talk and query that information across our entire infrastructure in real time. And so what are we going to be able to, what's it going to be able to do? It can read and query the seeds natively. It can activate and work with smart contracts. It can provide APIs which are custom built for our dApp developers. It can actually give you access to data dealing with all of the privacy issues that we were talking about with Google. And also what will be coming is your own decentralized AI that is completely private, powered by Vanar. It's already powering our blockchain, but everyone will have their own AI with none of the privacy issues that you currently have with AIs around the world. This will be Vanar. Not only is it a blockchain which is powered by AI, it is AI. Now, let me give you an example, because you can say, yeah, you know, fine, you've got AI. Let me show you how this would possibly work. So, I'll let this play. Now, what this is an example, so I'll just talk through it in case some of the text isn't that clear. But let's take the use case of RWA. and one of the projects that we're working with that's back here, one of our partners is called Saretta. Now they're tokenizing over $5 billion of assets, from gold to copper to building hospitals in Africa, and gold. And what you want to do is that, let's say you buy a gold token. What can you do with that with a blockchain? Currently not much, but what we can do with our AI, the user can connect their wallet. It checks to see if they actually have a gold token, and then it automatically queries all our blockchain to pull the information out all about the project. Because from the proof of product to the loading of the truck, to the transport of the gold, to the mining of the gold, to it being in the bonded warehouse and the audit reports, all of those things are stored on our blockchain. It can be PDFs, it can be reports, it can be text files, it can be photos. All of that directly lives on our blockchain, and our AI can query it. So you want to find out what's happening with your gold token? Fine. These are the documents. This is where your batch is. This is where your consignment is. This is when it will be delivered. These were your risks. This is my assessment. This is just a query an RWA project, and this is going to be the way that if you want to bring it to the mass market, the end user, you need to provide them this. An AI shouldn't just be about how to make a cooking recipe. An AI shouldn't be like being my personal life coach. It should be something which is useful. Tell me about my investment. Am I protected? Where is it? And RWAs are going to be one of the main tipping points for crypto and Web3. And AI, this sort of feature like we have in Keon, is going to change the game. It's going to allow every single user to know in real time every aspect of their transaction, where it is, what the risks are. It'll manage the KYC, even their cryptographic keys. Like right now, you've got a phrase. Imagine if your key to your wallet is like you humming a song and adding 2 words. Nothing can break that. Quantum computing is coming, and when it does that, it will crack traditional keys. The technology that we're building is quantum proof, it's quantum encrypted, and our AI and our blockchain is built for the future. So really, that's what we have. You know, and that's what our big reveal was about. It's about the future of crypto. And we believe that we're bringing the future of crypto to the table now. We are bringing you data. We're bringing you compression that no one in the world has seen. We are bringing you semantic storage that actually stores gigabytes of information in kilobytes of data. And we're bringing you the next generation of AI, which is completely threaded throughout our blockchain, and it will be the first AI for you, which is completely decentralized. This is what we're bringing. This is Vanar Neutron. It's live intelligent data on chain, and Vanar is going to power that future. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Joel, for that. So exciting, groundbreaking, a ton happening, a lot of products coming out. So we'll move swiftly along to our next panel. And we're discussing the topic of PayFi, and we're joined by some really esteemed partners. So maybe our panelists can join us, and then we can frame the discussion. Cool. Okay, so the topic that we're discussing is from payment to profit, and how PayFi is redefining finance. And we had a little briefing just before we did this, and it was really interesting to me because when I was speaking to and Hussam and Shay and Stuart, and these guys will introduce themselves, they said, "Guy, we don't often use this term PayFi," and it really did make me think. And I thought, oh, blimey, I use it so much, and we're using it so much in and around Token 2049, but what does that really mean? And for me, it means the convergence of payments and payment technology with decentralized finance. But it made me think that there's actually a lot to unpack, and maybe we've got further than we think to go, particularly with the larger institutions, in terms of what this area potentially is. So anyway, we've got a bit of time. We've got around 20-25 minutes. So I would love for the panelists to introduce themselves. Maybe we'll start with you, Hussam. I'll pass you over the mic.
Thank you so much. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for this vibrant and live audience. My name is Hussam Habannake. I lead crypto and digital assets product commercialization for MasterCard in the Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa region. I have been in Dubai for nearly 20 years now. It's been a while. I have worked with a number of institutions, including the Central Bank of the UAE, other card schemes, a number of local or regional banks and technology companies. And with that, I will pass on to you.
Flip it.
Hello.
There we go.
Oh, wonderful. Hey guys, my name's Che. I am visiting here from San Francisco. So small little 16-hour trip. Thank you though for inviting me on this panel. Very honored. I come from WorldPay. I've been at WorldPay now for 12 years. For those that don't know what WorldPay is or what we do, we're the largest global payments processor. So that's credit and debit cards. So we're basically a fiat on-ramp, off-ramp for every vertical that involves a card. We process well over $2.5 trillion worth of volume a year. And so I personally run our crypto team, which comprises of about 30 people. And so we go out there, and most of our clients that we talk to at the moment are exchanges, on-rampers, wallets, and we are now starting to move into this world where we're finding partners like Vanar to do some other things in this space.
Awesome. And Stuart?
That's great. Thanks, Shay. So I'm Stuart Eisted. Been in electronic payments for about 35 years, so if we could come up with some new terms for me to try and learn, that would be great as well. Having worked in retail banking, in the payment schemes, in processing, previously M&D for Crypto.com. I've been in Dubai, like Hussam, for 21 years. And I'm the CEO of a company called Paytech. And Paytech is, we call it a 6100 company. So we've been going for 6 months, but we've got 100 years of electronic payments experience. And we work in really 4 key verticals: merchant acquiring, fintech card issuing, real-world asset tokenization, and we help customers with their alternate payment conversion, so crypto into fiat, and all through partnerships with fully regulated license entities, ensuring that the trust and security stays within every transaction.
Awesome. I mean, even from my perspective, being in the space since 2019, or 2017 actually, sharing a platform or sharing a stage with companies with that breadth of experience and this size customer base is unheard of. So that speaks volumes about where we're going and where we're headed. But I think where we need to really, really begin is to understand that every major leap in finance comes with, with winners and losers, people that might be left behind. And I think what I would love to discuss is what strategic shift is PayFi going to make? Who stands to lose the most? What are the big challenges and big things that we envision? We all remember, some of us who reveal our age remember VHS and Betamax and, all these different technologies that were said to be better, but they fell by the wayside. And that happens to companies as well. I mean, BlackBerry was huge 5 years ago, and now where are they? So I'd love to explore that. Maybe we start with you, Hussam, that, who are the winners and losers going to be out of this, and what changes are coming?
Thank you. I believe just looking back at history, we don't have to have absolute losers. When the car was invented, horses did not lose. They enjoying their life in the fields. When we invented the mobile phone, the old phones did not lose, just retired. Same thing with the internet. We just saved more paper, more trees. I believe the loser here is inefficiencies and overhead. The losers will be the people who, or entities that refuse or resist to evolve and adopt. I think we don't have to have losers in the sense of complete or as a zero-sum game. If you evolve and adopt the technology, if you reinvent yourself, then avoid being resistant to change, you can all of us can emerge out of this winners.
That's a great answer. I could just say ditto on that, but I would add like a few things. First, I do think that, to your point, Hussam, there's not full winners or losers. There's going to be people that, or companies that are forging ahead much faster than others, right? I think I've been in this space for 12 years at WorldPay, and I think one of the things we noticed very quickly is that this was obviously a disruptive technology. It was disrupting a payment structure that was put in place back in the 70s, et cetera. So, you had a lot of, whether it was banks, whether it was, other providers, or, even other financial institutions. I don't think anyone obviously takes it serious at the beginning. And those that did, or that did see that this was going to change, I think were the ones that got ahead of a lot of this and started investing resources into the space. So for example, with WorldPay, building this team out, making sure that we had experts in all of the different department stakeholders that have to approve a customer coming on board with us. So having the right legal teams, having the right, like compliance teams and what have you that could actually go through these things helped us get ahead of a lot of stuff and bring customers on. And I think other traditional finance institutions, if they're taking that same approach, then what they're trying to do is be a part of the disruption and versus being disrupted. And I think that's, for the TradFi side, that's your winners and losers. I think on the crypto side of the fence, there's also winners and losers there, obviously, because there's all types of chains coming up, all types of projects, and we don't know where the adoption's gonna go. And I think the ones that could end up being the losers there are the ones that create great technology and they expect the customers to come to it versus realizing that, they've got to bring the technology to the customers. Absolutely. To have them use it, right?
Awesome.
Oh, two great answers. I can't really add a great deal to that. I would just say that I think the way I look at the world is that the institutional-led finance is being taken over by transactional and asset-based ecosystems. So Sam talks about inefficiencies of some of the traditional finance companies. Actually, very interested to hear Matthias talk about personalized data. So the winners, or the people who are going to win more are going to be the companies that really understand their customers and understand how their customers are transacting. When I first started in finance many years ago, you actually went into this thing called a branch and you filled out a form with a pen and you went through this whole process to get financial services. And if you were lucky, they approved you. Now, the decision with technology, the way that we've developed, and really interested to hear about Neutron and some of the products that have been launched today by Vanar, we're taking the decision away from traditional finance and we're putting it in the hands of the consumers. And that's how we're going to really evolve and affect change. And I think that's one of the key areas of difference.
That's really interesting as well because, what comes across from all of you is, a consumer-centric approach as well, that there has to be balance, but we have to be cognizant of the new opportunities or areas that this begins to unlock. And also just, just the sheer scale of, a company like MasterCard and then WorldPay, the volume that you guys deal with and the type of relationships you have in this space, when we started talking to WorldPay, I was blown away by how much of that you guys manage, like you're this monster behind the scenes. It's amazing to see, and then to see new companies coming up that have a ton of experience. But I want to stay with you, Stuart, for a second. It's like, when it comes to PayFi, I think it creates new forms of value, new types of opportunities. Like what do you see coming, you know, not just faster or cheaper payments, but you touched upon like you had to walk into a branch and stuff like that. What do you see as new types of value that can be created through PayFi, you know?
So look, the way I look at it is you see everyone talks about crypto, and crypto takes all the headlines, but the heavy lifting is done by the blockchains. The heavy lifting is done by the people who are innovating. So if I look at problem statements, and you're right, I do look at things in a customer-centric approach. Today, if you're in Africa and you need to buy product from China, there's a hell of a process that you've got to go through in the financing of the supply chain before you even get to the supplier to then ship goods, to then receive and come forward. So one of the things that we've done at Paytech is partnered with some organizations that are solving that problem. So rather than using a traditional sort of bank SWIFT network, out of Africa can typically take a few weeks to get corresponding bank and transactions to happen. One of our partners takes local currency, converts into stable coin. The stable coin is then converted into local currency, remember, in China, and then it's then deposited in the account of the supplier. So everybody has to stay and sit within the ecosystem. So you have to open an account with our partner. You have to have your suppliers open an account with our partner. But those transactions can be in instant, so T+1, for example, rather than wait 6 or 7 days for a transaction to happen. So that's how, we talk about speed of transactions, but it's also security and trust. If you're sat in Africa trying to make a transaction with a supplier in China, I'm pretty sure there's some translators that make quite a lot of money on those transactions. But if you've got everything on the blockchain and everything within an ecosystem that you can control as a buyer or a seller, then I think that's going to evolve utilization of things like blockchain and PayFi technology.
I think how do we get new products? It's usually either companies will charge with innovation, will just basically build a product that believes that this product will succeed and then people will adopt it, or the demand will come from customers, a gap will be created in the market, or as a result of a technology revolution, and then companies will start developing new products. And when it comes to our vision, we have, of course, both. We have built products that is solving a real problem, is bridging a real gap, and also we have created products that are a direct result of consumer demand, sometimes consumer, sometimes corporate. Just to give you an example, 2 products. And also is somehow a manifestation of PayFi, where the traditional payment rails have immediately connected and bridged with the digital and tokenized economy. So an example of that is the crypto card, where the crypto card is a traditional payment instrument that is immediately funded by tokenized asset or a crypto or a stable coin. And this is an answer for a problem and a gap in the market where consumers tells me it takes me 4, 5, 6 days to be able to spend from my crypto holdings. I have to go to the exchange, I have to sell the digital assets, I have to wire it into a bank account and then be able to spend. And I have to do that in bulk, and that's expensive. The crypto card comes to simplify and solves this problem, where it allows the consumer to have a card, go to any merchant, spend, and this card can be on their devices, can be tokenized, can be used online, and they can benefit from all the traditional, existing, established compliance and regulatory that we have all been enjoying for years. Another example is the stablecoin support and how we, as a company, answer the demand of our merchants, like we have announced 2 days ago, where we can support stablecoin settlement for merchants. So lots of the merchants that are in the tokenized economy, they would like to stay in digital assets. They would like to unlock higher value of their money, to increase the time value of their money by having it now, not a day later or 2 days later. We would like to have it now, so the potential, the investment potential of their assets is higher. So those are 2 examples, and maybe we can give more examples later. Thank you.
Yeah, and those are great examples. And to expand on the stablecoin one, I know that's the hot topic of this cycle. Again, I've been being in the space so long, every cycle was driven by something, right? NFTs, ICOs, you name it. I think in this case with stablecoins, what we see, what's really important, what's made us go out there and look for partners that will help us do stablecoin settlements for our large merchants, because again, we're not talking about like a sandwich shop, right? You're talking an Amazon or a AliExpress or something. So when you're talking stablecoins there, what we've noticed from different verticals is each one of these verticals had a reason for wanting something like stablecoins. If it was the high-risk sector, say it was crypto, and you're talking about on-rampers or small exchanges, in traditional fiat sectors, they've got to wait for their fiat that happened on Friday to come on Monday. So when the weekend's happening and you've got trading activity and you've got all these things going on, they feel that tight crunch of not getting funds in on time, and you start to see some companies start throttling traffic and things like that because they're worried about not having enough cash to handle things, right? Banking holidays, all of those things. That's a crypto example. We find in other places, like say the marketplaces, the Etsy's of the world, they want to do things like, and examples like pay by crypto or pay-ins, crypto pay-ins, other avenues of accepting funds or paying their creators or, whatever you call the partners that they use for these marketplaces like an Etsy, and to be able to pay them in crypto and receive crypto. That was a big one, right? Same with stable coins, paying in stable coin, receiving in stable coin, especially if you're talking about markets that take a long time to get fiat from point A to point B. And I think that, one last example with the stable coins, look at the travel industry. You have for example, the airlines, they've got, if you're British Airways and you're, got customers around the world trying to buy tickets for British Airways to fly to London, that's FX almost everywhere they're at, right? And so shaving off FX, how do we get rid of that? Ooh, stable coins sounded like a very great thing to explore, right? So these are all examples, and they're not just sitting in the crypto space. They're now all in Web 2, and what's interesting about our world is processing for all of these big Web 2 companies, hearing which ones have thought ahead about this and which ones are still kind of coming in there. So I think, with all of these type of products, you've got a lot of growth here coming, and I think it will be driven more by those Web 2 companies versus crypto, or maybe both.
Absolutely. I mean, just getting into the sort of stuff that we're looking to do with you guys as well, I think that the opportunity is vast. There's so many areas that we plan to work together beyond being a validator on the chain. So we're super excited about that. But I wanted to stay on the topic of stable coins. Maybe this is something I'd love to ask you, Stuart, as well. It's like, to Shay's point, it is the hot topic of the time, and it is a driver of the momentum. But what role do you think stable coins are going to play in scaling this entire PayFi sector? With USD1 coming and I think $1 billion have been minted just this week or something. But I'd love to get your thoughts on what you think, and then to the rest of the panelists, what do you think the role is going to be of stable coins in really making this sector being taken seriously?
Yeah, look, I think it comes down to trust and security. I think, as I said earlier, crypto takes all the headlines, whether it's positive or negative, blockchain's an infrastructure layer, but people are aware and understand the value of stable coins, whoever the provider is. Typically, it's one-for-one backed. It's typically secure, so your transaction, whether you're the send or the receive part, you know what you're going to receive. So I think the role of stablecoin is absolutely pivotal to the success of a lot of projects. So I think trust and security being kind of filtered through the entire ecosystem, I think that's the key for stablecoins.
Thank you so much. So I believe when we're talking about stablecoin here, we're talking about regulated, compliant stablecoins, and I believe it's a great invention where we have taken the benefits of the blockchain and open networks, all these technology benefits, and we have immediately deployed it into a use case where it will instantly eliminate inefficiencies from the system. I believe that they have great potentials. Our clients, both consumers and corporates, are basically realizing the benefits of stablecoin, of the speed and transparency that it allows. And then we have observed jurisdictions like the UAE, where the Central Bank of the UAE has issued the payment token regulation 6 months ago, which allows for local currency stablecoin backed by the dirham. And this tells you that the regulators also believe that this is the important piece of the future financial infrastructure that will support and accelerate further the development of economies.
Yeah, and I'll just echo both. I think that when, you know, to really get the adoption and the trust, it's trust, it's security. You hear that with a lot of our customers. But I think it's just like anything else, right? You can be skeptical, what have you, until you use the product. And then once you use the product, you go, wow, did I just send that quickly, right? Did customers just get paid and I skipped 3 corresponding banks along the way that took a cut, right? How do we do more of this? And I think the way we're going to approach it, my team doesn't know this yet, but I'm going to push this on them, is, you know, a lot of it is getting them to, a lot of these customers to try, you know, using this product in just a real small bite-sized format, right? Try 1% of your traffic or something smaller, or one market that might be your costliest market, the one that has all the corresponding banks or takes, you know, 8 days to actually send funds. Try a little bit of that and see where it goes. And what we found is that's usually that catalyst, right? Because at the end of the day, most of these big e-commerce companies are trying to figure out how to save costs as well as grow revenue, right? And saving costs here and being able to move money around the globe way cheaper, and then put that into products and things like that, development. I think that's how you start to get that snowball effect.
Awesome. Okay, we got time for one last question, and because of the nature of the organizations that we've got here, you have to think ahead. You know, you have to think forward. So I'll ask each one of you, what major shift do you think PayFi is going to bring that maybe people aren't quite talking about yet? It's a tricky one, but let's finish on that one. So I'll start with Stuart, and then we'll go down the panel. Sorry to drop you in it first.
Yeah. No problem. So I think there's 2 areas here. I think, so first of all, when you're talking with consumers and when you're talking with institutions, you still have to tether yourself to the real world, right? So RWF, real world finance. So you've got to still go through some of that regulatory KYC, KYB process. So I can see a big shift with more regulators adopting, like we have in the UAE with VARA, with ADGM, DIFC, DMCC, really forward-thinking regulators to help the builders build in our industry and our ecosystem. So I think that's number 1. I think number 2, keeping on the real world asset tokenization side, I can see a real shift in the SME space. I can see products like invoice financing being tokenized. So if you're an SME and you're on a 60-day payment term, if you put your invoice into a real world asset tokenization program and you get your cash flow immediately, and then when your payment terms are then fulfilled, I can actually see people taking that up and adopting that. And I won't speak for WorldPay, but I can see large organizations in the acquiring space actually adopting this type of technology to offer to their customers as a value add service that helps them with their immediate concerns, which is cash flow.
Yeah, I'll just hop on that. Absolutely right. I think that, you know, there's plenty of ways that you're going to see, you know, the technology in this space really grow. And a couple random examples that pop in my head is, say, something like, you know, to me, you have technology now where you can kill certain or existing businesses out there, right? Like take subscription businesses. When all of a sudden you could do micro payments and things in quick, fast succession, and now all of a sudden I don't need to have a subscription to something. Maybe I just want to read one article for a tenth of a penny or something, right? That's something you wouldn't be able to do on a card because that's just too small of a transaction, right? Cash flow and funding a lot of these businesses where they know they can get fiat in the form of stable coins, like I said, 24/7, 7 days a week, you know, more than one settlement for the day, right? Like all of a sudden maybe you get 3 settlements throughout the day, and now you've got businesses really pumping and moving and disrupting some of these traditional models, like I said, like the subscriptions, et cetera, like the banks, right? A lot of the FX, which I was mentioning with travel and stuff. So once you start invading in those spaces, they either need to adapt and join the party, or it's going to be a big problem, right? And that's where that consumer demand really affects this.
So I maybe will go to a different segment in the market. So Stewart covered the SME, and you've covered the consumer. I will talk about the commercial, large value commercial payments. Is also a candidate for disruption. They still make up more than 60% of the volumes. They are like significant in the amounts, and also the inefficiencies or the cost of inefficiencies there is also significant. And the this technology, the evolution that we are currently witnessing, has the potential to disrupt this segment. And I believe the business owners now realize those potentials. They can see them on the consumer level processes, and they are started to raising the question, how can we replicate this into our business to unlock hundreds of millions in funds that are locked due to the current way of doing business. This is something that we are working on, and we are creating systems and processes and governance in order to create interoperable bridge between the tokenized world and the traditional financial system. We refer to it as the multi-token network, and I believe it has great potentials in orchestrating and automating large value B2B commercial flows.
Well, that's some alpha from MasterCard. So awesome. So thank you. I want to join us, say thank you to our great panelists. I think we've got some really amazing insights. So thank you guys for joining us. And maybe if you have time, you can join some of our people who have come to the venue. Want to share some more insights with them.
Yeah, thank you, and happy to.
Thank you, everyone. So yeah, guys, that's our 3 panels. We're coming to the end of Vanar Vision. Thank you everyone for joining us. A couple of things. You can, we've got around 20 minutes left for some networking, so you can do that outside. Also, we have our interactive room. We'll open that up now as well, where we'll be talking more and be showing more about what we're doing in terms of the Vanar ecosystem and the different universities and the countrywide growth activities that we're doing. We'll also have Inflective there, who are showing their data set tokenization and how they're unlocking the new data economy, and also the Saretta team, which are unlocking about 5 million in real-world assets. But from me and from all the Vanar team, thank you for coming, and we hope you had a wonderful event. So thank you.